This is a City Commission work session. Today is Tuesday, June 10th, 2025. We are displaced from City Hall, so we're in the historic Largo feed store. I encourage you to stop by here on the first weekend of the month when the Historical Society has their open house here. We do have three, so if you can also come and join us in person today. We're in Largo Central Park at the feed store. So we have three presentations this afternoon. Then we'll start with Clearwater Largo Road Multimodal Improvements CIP project update.
Thank you for this. We've been working on this particular plan for 4 to 5 years now. So for the benefit of the commissioners that were not on the commission when we started this, just a brief summary. This project started out as a CIP project, a Clearwater Largo Road multimodal project. The intent was to construct a mid-block crossing with pedestrian refuge close to the Publix shopping center. We held a series of stakeholder meetings, including the Pinellas County School Board and the City Commission. And the feedback we received was that there really should, if we can manage it, there should be some provision for a buffer for the students walking to and from Mildred Helms Elementary. Currently, the sidewalk is back of curb. The posted speed limit is 35 miles an hour. Our consultant, who I'll introduce in just a moment, has documented that the 85th percentile speed is 45 miles an hour. So the concern was these students walking to Mildred Helms, just adjacent to that kind of traffic. A couple of kind of complications of this project. Whereas this is within the city of Largo, Clearwater Largo Road, south of West Bay Drive is Pinellas County jurisdiction, meaning they own and maintain it. So for any kind of change to the typical section, really we need Pinellas County buy-in. So after that, those series of stakeholder meetings, staff did reach out to Pinellas County staff, specifically Pinellas County traffic management, and understood from them that the answer is not no, but if there is going to be a yes, it needs to be supplemented with some detailed technical evaluation and also some public outreach. So we actually Forward Pinellas, we received a grant from Forward Pinellas to help fund that technical analysis. The consultant that the city chose was in fact Kimley Horn. So today we do have Kimley Horn providing a presentation on both the technical evaluation and the public feedback. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Jared Schneider, who will be leading the presentation, and Chad Davis, who's done a lot of the technical analysis and will be available for questions also. So thanks very much, Jared. The floor is all yours.
Thanks so much, Barry. Great introduction. I think that was a good synopsis of the last 5 years. Again, Jared Schneider with Kimley Horn. As Barry mentioned, I've got Chad Davis, who's done a lot of the technical analysis. We also have, I'd like to recognize our staff, transportation engineering and landscape architects that have been involved in this process too. It's been about a year or more, Barry, since we started this process. So thankful for staff as well. Without further ado, I really want to just give you kind of the background, dive a little bit deeper into what Barry just mentioned, talk about our analysis and the engagement that we went through over the year plus, and then give you an idea of the recommendations that came out of the analysis. Again, Barry did a nice job. This is really looking at 8th Avenue Southwest to West Bay Drive on Clearwater Largo Road. So on the west, we have Mildred Helms Elementary. To the west, we also like to say we have the Pinellas Trail. We're also thinking of this holistically. On the east, we have several parks as well as downtown Horizons West. So we looked at ways of how to connect to those, but specifically to Clearwater Largo Road, this is, as Barry mentioned, the speed limit posted 35 miles per hour. The 85th percentile speed was 44 miles per hour. And Chad's going to talk a little bit more about the crashes. It's about 181 over the last 5 years. Currently today, it's 6 lanes with about 17,000 cars per day. Barry hit on this. The main objectives, we're really looking at pedestrian safety, focusing on safe, comfortable environment, and then also looking at aesthetics for the roadway improvements. This is what it looks like today, looking north towards West Bay Drive. Want to highlight, this is the intersection of West Bay Drive, and one of the things that we did here from the chamber specifically was really wanting to keep this access point open to public. So that was something that we had quite a bit of discussion on, as well as Barry mentioned, there was a number of crossings. We saw a lot of pedestrians in this area. Some of the safety concerns, as I said, it's here you can see some of the crossings on the left. This is the beacon where the students cross after school at Mildred Helms. This is some of what we saw on the walk audit, as Barry mentioned, just non-compliant crosswalks, ramps. The real concern here is the adjacency to the roadway with that 45 mile per hour limit that I was just talking about, or 35 mile per hour rather. Wanted to highlight the engagement piece. We start off with a walk audit that included Pinellas County staff, Largo staff, as well as Fort Pinellas. We conducted a number of other meetings. We had a community meeting, 2 surveys, agency staff meetings with Pinellas County, as Barry mentioned, presentation to the chamber to kind of gauge what they were thinking. And then Largo staff was instrumental with the project web page and a video that was created. And really the point of that was to walk the public through the options that I'm going to present to you. I was also really impressed with staff on the communications piece, really trying to get the word out, including postcards, yard signs, social media. Staff was out there for multiple days. Barry, I think you were as well, with communication staff for 2 days, really just trying to get the word out as much as possible. So I'm going to have Chad talk a little bit more about kind of the engagement that we had in the survey.
So the first survey that was released, we had roughly about 300 survey responses focusing on, or a lot of what we were hearing was a focus on pedestrian safety as being one of the top priorities for the project. There was also a great concern of the speeding. As Barry mentioned, the 85th percentile speed is roughly 44 to 45 miles per hour. As we got into the first and the second survey, most of a fair amount of the survey respondents didn't feel comfortable walking or biking along the corridor. So that was one of the major considerations for this project, making a better pedestrian and bicycle experience. I'm going to pass it back to Jared for the proposed recommendations.
All right, so all of the analysis and the engagement really brought us to kind of 3 overarching scenarios. So I'm going to walk through those. There's scenario A, which is really just maintaining what we have out there today and trying to improve some landscape options and crossings. Scenario B was looking at an on-street bicycle lane to really look at having that potential improvement on street. Scenario C was the wider sidewalk of shared use path option. So this is what you see today. You got 6 lanes. We have a sidewalk adjacent to the curb. Again, 6 travel lanes and a left turn lane. So kind of keep in mind each graphic that we show follows the same format. Scenario A, and on the right, you'll see kind of the changes. Really the point here was, again, to provide landscaping, a landscape median, 2-way left turn lane, But really, this is the option where we're just trying to, the low-hanging fruit. We're just trying to improve walkability with a crossing. And this is kind of what we're talking about, enhanced landscaping along the edges. Scenario B, what you can see is the curb moves slightly. Or I'm sorry, rather we're taking the travel lane and we're adding the bicycle lane with a buffer from the sidewalk, because as Barry mentioned, that's our biggest concern is children walking from Mildred Helms having that buffer. So that was the kind of the largest piece. We also included a landscape median crossing on this option, and really looking at potentially some landscaping adjacent. So this is what it could look like. Again, just looking at those countermeasures, showing what that could look like. So scenario C, what this does is includes the buffer. It repurposes, similar to scenario B, repurposes a travel lane to allow for a greater buffer and then also a greater sidewalk. So the pedestrians and the bicyclists are separated, they're mixed on the side of the roadway and have that buffer with landscaping. And then also it's including a two-way left turn lane landscaping in the median. I'll also say we're really looking at all these options, including the right-of-way is tight, so including the same right-of-way. So this is an option of what it could look like, wider sidewalk with bicyclists as well. And then with all the three options, we looked at the traffic operations. As Barry mentioned, that was key with our analysis. So we really took a conservative approach. Over the last 5 years, we reviewed the traffic. It's really been pretty flat over the last 5 years and actually declined. But we took a 1% growth rate all the way up to 2045 to measure what the impact would be. Some of the things that Pinellas County mentioned was looking at obviously the concerns of capacity for repurposing. One of the things that we talked a lot about on West Bay Drive with all of these options, West Bay Drive and Clearwater Largo Road would be continuing the same configuration of the turn lanes. Really, capacity is controlled at the intersection. So that was the key point. And then also looking at the intersection of 8th Avenue, we did lose a lane there. So we did analyze that, and everything is operating at acceptable levels. So, and we went through the three options. This really kind of boils it all up into one matrix. So again, scenario A is that pedestrian crossing, really just looking at what can we do with the really quick improvement. Scenario B was that on-street bicycle lane. Scenario C is a wider sidewalk. And then on the left, we talked about roadway reconstruction. All three would require some form of reconstruction or resurfacing. And then we started to look at pros and cons, benefits. The vehicular safety for scenario A is minor, and then B and C is significant, right? Because we've got speeds that we're controlling. That was one of the things that we saw with most of our crashes is the excessive speeding. Bicycle pedestrian safety improves as you go from scenario A, B, and C. Scenario B and C, we also looked at lighting improvements as well as landscaping for all the options. Again, for the right-of-way, we're looking to maintain the existing right-of-way, not expand it. Some may be required, or curb would be required to be moved in scenario B and C. So that's really kind of a summary of all the three major options. So to boil it up, really what we're trying to do is address the safety issues that we've heard. As Barry mentioned, coordinated with Pinellas County and Fort Pinellas throughout the process. One of the things I like to highlight with the scenario B and C, that on-street bicycle lane and as well as the wider sidewalk, are the reduced crash frequencies throughout. So that's something we highlighted here. Chad mentioned the second survey. Really, that was where we heard the main option that was recommended was the scenario C, the wider sidewalk. So that's what we heard. Nearly 70% of the survey responses keyed in on that scenario C, that wider sidewalk. And we can get into more detail on what we heard, but that was the main part I wanted to highlight for y'all. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Just wanted to give you guys a summary. Our next steps are to take feedback and input and update the report itself. We've also talked about following up with Pinellas County staff further after this meeting. So pleased to be here today and give you guys an update, and happy to take any questions you might have. Thank you.
Various options.
We sure do. So scenario B and C are very close and similar. Those are around $5 million. Scenario A, the minor update of the landscape median with the crossing is under $200,000.
Really?
Mm-hmm. That's just one median along
That's a substantial difference.
Yep.
Funding wise, is the county, are we counting on the county participating in the cost of this, or is this strictly ours to bear?
Barry, I don't know, you might want to answer that one. Yep.
Commissioner Holmes, it is, we certainly would welcome cost participation from the county. It is likely the county would look to the city to implement these changes. You're welcome.
West Bay down to 8th Avenue, correct? So I forget how long, it's not far.
Half mile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously dropping down to 2 lanes and, would slow things down. But, there would be, you would drop down to 2 lanes and then quickly transition back to 3 lanes as you get further down. I think if you're coming north, you're going to be the one losing the lane. And they're going pretty fast, as we know, on that road. And all of a sudden they're going to have, you're going to have merging traffic and stuff like that. I'm not a traffic expert, but I don't know if that causes additional danger or not, knowing at the speeds that they're coming up on the road at that point. If you're talking about 45 miles an hour and all of a sudden they lose a lane.
Yeah, the lane configuration, that's a good point. So just north of West Bay Drive, it drops to 4 lanes. And as you said, Commissioner, south of 8th Avenue on the south side of our study area, it's 6 lanes. So one of the things that we talked about is you're coming south on West Bay Drive, you're on 4 lanes, and now you're expanded into 6. So that causes some friction. So in some ways, this could help from a safety aspect as you're going south. Yeah.
It turns back, it stays 4 lanes. So, okay.
And I think one thing we talked a little bit about is it's such a different character, right? As you go north of West Bay Drive, there's similar volume on 4 lanes of traffic. And part of this is not just the safety aspect, but it's the gateway into the city. So that's something that we kind of highlighted and talked about. So that's why the landscaping was mentioned. It's just a different character as you come into the city.
Or 4 lanes all the way to US 19, am I right?
That's correct. That's correct.
Up to Tarpon Springs, it's either 2 or 4 lanes. Yeah.
It is tight. Yes.
I had a question about what do you expect that reducing to 4 lanes would have on that 85th percentile speed, assuming that the speed limit is still 35 miles an hour? Would it reduce that 85? Would it most likely reduce that 85 percentile?
That's typically what we see with the friction with the landscape medians, and even landscaping on the edges creates more of this tunnel effect in a way, and slowing the speeds down. So there's studies that show that happens. That would definitely be the benefit of the improvements we're identifying here.
You mentioned that it's been taken to the Pinellas County Traffic Management team or division or whatever. I'm curious if it was taken to I assume they have a community development team there as well. And I think that a project like this is as important for community development as it is for traffic management, because the reason that we're talking about this is more for the community than it is for traffic management, And you said the traffic count is 17,000. Well, on West Bay Drive, it's way more than that. West Bay Drive through downtown is 4 lanes, carries a lot more traffic. So I'm curious if we have talked to the community development team at the county, and if not, if we could.
Yeah, Barry, but we certainly can, Mayor. So one of the next steps we talked about with county staff, their recommendation was to go to the Fort Pinellas Technical Coordinating Committee, which includes planners from Pinellas County on that committee.
Yep. All right. Thank you. Yeah.
Same thing that's coming northbound up to 8th Avenue. You do have that lane that kind of peels off there. There's kind of a natural way to reduce that lane if you just kind of
like Ridge Road,
right, yeah,
northbound,
yeah. So I think there's a natural place to thin it out right there. If, and that makes a lot of sense in front of that school. I know people blaze down there very fast. They come around that curve fast. I know they tend to hit their brakes a little bit in front of the school, but I go to church right there, so they're coming fast, even on a Sunday.
That bend coming north, yeah.
Yeah, they come around that bend fast for sure. So.
This is a great idea. I know that we've talked about this for several years now, and I'm glad to see things are being worked on for it. I know that cost, as always, is going to be the biggest factor in this happening or not. But so we talked about the city, the county. Because there's a school there, is there any chance of school board, education money going towards the safety of their students in that aspect as well? Or do they not get involved in?
I don't tend to see that. I think it's definitely something we can explore. And I know you'll hear the word grants, right? There's always grants for safe routes to school. I think definitely having them as a partner, and I think we need more and more to get creative. We mentioned $5 million. That I tend to feel there's always a range in there too. And obviously, that's right. And if you get into design and there's utility constraints, and it could be more. But yeah, is there a way to phase improvements? That's something we talk about quite a bit. But yeah, I think it's a creative idea to get with the school board and other partners. Barry, looked like you had something to add to that. So. Actually. Yeah, thank you. I know that's a tough component when we see that price tag.
When you look at them, it's nice to look at and happy to hold. What this reminds me of? We had meetings I guess it's 6 years ago, Woody, about West Bay Drive, going out to Bel Air Bluffs. All the marvelous things that we were going to do on West Bay Drive, and the county wanted $1 million from the city. And we had meeting after meeting after meeting about widening the sidewalks, putting an island down the middle of it. And we were going to run it from the trail all the way down past Indian Rocks Road. And to my knowledge, that has never, did they ever finish up the concept on that? Because I don't think we've paid the $1 million into it yet. But the whole point is, that thing was really, really nice to look at and stuff like that. To my knowledge, it hasn't gone anywhere, but this is the same way. This is a nice concept to look at, except when you're getting down into the weeds of the price. $5 million is a lot of money for this. And when you say $5 million now, if you had to vote tonight to say, yeah, let's go ahead and do it, it's not going to be $5 million. That's going to be probably 7 or 8 million, which we're talking some pretty serious money here. The safety aspect is wonderful. You can't replace a life, but that also brings up another question. It says there's been 1 pedestrian death in the last 5 years. Well, doesn't say what that is. Is this some wino that came out of a bar there and he tried to walk across the street? You don't know. It's just, you had one there. I'd almost like to see a police report on that. If it gets to that, I mean, I'm not looking for it right now, but just that would be something, you know, the crashes, what actually, and what was the primary cause of the crashes, of the 181 crashes, and of the one fatality? What was that? You know, these are the little things that I'd like to see. I could pick on you all day though.
Any other questions or comments? Yeah,
Sure, be happy to.
please.
That project is at 90% design. My expectation is it will go to construction in FY26. Just based on my feedback from Pinellas County. Actually, I just received an email from the Pinellas County project manager as you were asking that question. So they're at 90% design. They will be moving to construction.
Contribution, where does it stand now? Do you know?
It's more like 1.3 million. That's what we've had that estimate since 2022 or so, inflation adjusted. And the cost estimate from Pinellas County's engineer, they're the ones that are doing the design. We're paying our part through the JPA. The engineer's estimate is our estimate. What we have available for funding that $1.3 million is in line with the engineer's estimate. So we won't have a budget bust there.
Subject, just curious.
Okay.
Thank you.
You are.
So if I'm not mistaken, we started talking about this corridor when the county came to the city several years ago and said, hey, we're looking at this roadway. I think they're planning repaving it and doing some improvements there, and they wanted to make it safer, right? And so that's how this whole conversation started. So I assume that they have some project in the pipeline to do something. And I think that they were looking for us to help make some community improvements in that corridor to include pedestrian safety. Now, at the time, they didn't think that moving the sidewalk away from the road was feasible or possible or necessary. I frankly disagree with that. With all three of those things, I think it's feasible, I think it's necessary, and it's reasonable. And it would make it a lot safer for kids, regardless if only one has been killed in the last 5 years. I think that the fact that there's cars regularly going 45 miles an hour when there's 8-year-olds walking on the sidewalk by themselves to school, inches away from those cars, we have to do what we can to fix that situation. The corridor goes through its neighborhoods on either side. It's an elementary school and neighborhoods. There's not a commercial, I mean, it connects to a commercial corridor at West Bay Drive, but at that point, to your point, it's, 8 lanes across. It's something huge. And so kids don't cross West Bay Drive. They, a lot of kids get dropped off at the Publix because the parents don't want to mess with the car circle. And they walk down that sidewalk over to the school. And many come from the neighborhood and use the lighted crossing, which is another thing. I have people ask me all the time about the fact that that's not a school zone. It's a roadway where cars go 45 miles an hour, and yet there's not a marked school zone there. And what I hear from the county or whoever it is that answers this question is it's because it's that lighted crossing that's a safer thing than just slowing the cars down. Again, I think we could probably do both for an elementary school on a 6-lane highway through a neighborhood, or we could change that highway and the character of it and make it safer for the whole community. So yeah, I'm glad that we're having this conversation. I certainly went to several of the community meetings and I certainly appreciate all the work on this. I do hope that we move in a good direction and don't put back what's there already.
I think that's well said. We didn't highlight as much in the presentation, but is in the report. And your point is well taken. It takes time do concepts, come up with design. I hope we don't wait 5 years longer to start the conversation on design. But one thing we did identify is the phasing, like the school zone. There's always things we could do now. So we did kind of identify some of the short-term type improvements. And I know it adds up. It's a price tag, but it's an overarching vision. There's always incremental approaches I feel like you can take too.
Any other questions, comments? We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Next, we'll hear about the police officers and firefighters retirement plan actuarial report.
Good evening. So every year we have an actuarial valuation report done for our City of Largo Police and Firefighters Pension Plan. So I'm just going to go through the results of the one for October 1st, the valuation date. The purpose of the report is to measure our plan's funding level, the progress. It comes up with our retirement contributions requirement for the next year, and then also to present required Governmental Accounting Standards Board 67 statement data. So this data was presented to the Police and Fire Pension Board of Trustees at their April board meeting, but you're just going to do an overview with you of the information that was in it. So a little bit of history. We've had this plan. It's a local plan since 1973. It covers our sworn police and fire employees. As of the date of this report, there were 283 active members and 259 retirees and drop members. So our plan is getting to that level of maturity where we're going to have more retirees than active members. It's a local law plan defined under Chapter 175 and 185 of the Florida statutes, and it's funded by premium taxes on property and casualty insurance policies. So they're different ones for police on casualty insurance. That's at, I think, 0.85%. And then for fire, it's on property insurance. It's 1.85%. So currently our plan has a kind of a split between fire and police, where fire has the same benefits regardless of tenure. Police does have a caveat right now: if they were hired after 10/1/13, the normal retirement age is higher, the benefit factor is lower, and the average compensation that's used to come up with what their benefit is 5 years. Now, there was a union meeting in January, and this was voted upon there. So this report does not have changes that are going to be coming to be presented to the commission to make the police benefits mirror the fire benefits. So we don't offer a cost of living adjustment annually in the plan, but we do offer a drop plan. So when someone is within 7 years of retirement, they can enter the drop and start taking their contributions and having them deposited there. So we work with the actuarial report, comes up with the gains and losses based on assumptions for the future, and they're amortized through the plan using a smoothing method, meaning that we're not recognizing the full impact of investment gains or losses in 1 year. That's going over 5 years, so that the impact of those isn't changing the contribution rate and the funding level significantly from year to year. So it keeps it a little bit more consistent. So again, as I mentioned, this report is as of data from October 1st, 2024. The investment return assumption was at 6.5%, an assumed rate of inflation 2.5%. The unfunded amount that the actuary determines for our liability, the period for amortization of that is 20 years. And that was changed in recent years based on the minimum level of years of service. So it used to be 25 years. And what was happening is that people were retiring at 23 years. So we're amortizing a liability for their insurance benefits for longer than they're actually even employed. So that amount was dropped down to 20 years. And then it has assumptions of salary increases from 5 to 6.5%. So in the agenda memo, I listed some high level points, but I'm just going to go through a few of them here. On page 1 of the actual actuarial report that was attached to the memo, it's also available on our website in the Financial Center. It does show this as our required contributions for fiscal year 2026 are going to be about $500,000 more than 2025. They're going up to 10.04 million compared to that 9.58 million, which was a significant increase from the 2023 year of 8 million. On page 2, it shows our funding level. There's more information further back, but with this current valuation, our current funding level actuarially determined is 78.8%. That's compared to 77.1% in the prior year. Page 9 and 10 show our participant data. As I mentioned, the number of active employees versus retirees. You can see what our employer normal cost is on page 10, and that is specifically if we weren't trying to make up this unfunded liability amount, that our normal annual cost would be about $4.9 million. So the fact that we are underfunded compounds over the course of time, and that's where we have come up with that 10 million. So the amount that we are reporting in our fiscal year 9/30/2025 financial statements is going to be $50.1 million in our unfunded actuarial liability. So we always use it, since this report was issued in April and our financial statements are due in March, we're always reporting 1 year back, and that's allowable by governmental accounting board standards. But that's what we're going to be reporting. So that's a little bit of a change from the prior year. And then our net pension liability was significantly lower from the prior year. We're going to be reporting $31.6 million. This is a shot of page 18, and page 17 in the report actually shows the chart with the data producing this. This is showing our history of the investment returns. As I mentioned, it's a 6.5% assumption. So they're showing our assumed rate of return and where it's gone in the last since 1991, as well as the actual. And just for comparison data, the FRS rate of return is 6.7% as of their July 2024 report. This is also same data from page 17 and 18, the history of our salary increases. As I mentioned, the pension plan assumes that 5 to 6.5% increase. It's depending on years of service, but this is assumed versus actual. So they did change that and increase it a couple years ago based on our actual experience. They take a look. I think we've done it about every 5 or 7 years and looked at actual experience and adjusted those assumptions based on what we know. So this information is showing since 1999 what our unfunded actuarial liability is, as well as the funded ratio of the plan. As I mentioned, it's 78.8%. The last time we were above even 80% was 2007, and the last time we were over 100% was in 2001. This is just a 5-year historical trend of our investment performance data. And this is from the investment advisor or the plan. They put this together when they do their quarterly reports. This is showing September 2019 through December of 2024 and the actual rate of return. And this is where the assumption here is 6.5%. So, over the course of time, that has been adjusted down as well. So short, but this is just informational for the City Commission. As I mentioned, this is presented at the Police Fire Pension Board meeting to the board members. We will continue this year. We already have the number, which is that 9.58 million, and that's what we're going to contribute to the plan this year, including the state premium tax money. That's about just shy of $2 million. So we record that as a city revenue. We also record it as a city expense, but we make up the difference. So again, this information is provided to our budget department. So it's included in workings for our fiscal year 2026 budget. And then any of those future plan changes, as I mentioned, are going to affect the valuations. Last year in April, we took a look at what would the first year cost be for increasing those pension benefits for the police officers and restoring those benefits back to where they were. And at that time, the actuarial valuation determined that it was about a $470,000 increase in the first year, and it would have decreased our funding level by about 0.7%. So that number is not included in this $10.04 million increase. On 9/30 this year, we're going to send them more information. They'll be able to produce another report with our impact in future years, but just awareness for that this is coming, and it's something to consider when we're going through budget discussions. As I mentioned, this plan report, as well as the independent financial audit and statements for the plan, are available on the city website if anybody's interested. But the city reports this in our annual financial report, their financial statements. We just are a year behind since we're using the data that's available at the time. So I'm available for any questions.
Good to see the percentage going up, even if it's just
Yeah.
a little bit.
Good question. When our officers and firemen take distributions, is it after their 20 years or is it when they hit a certain age?
So from the actual plan after they're retired,
Yeah, after they're retired.
I
They
have to
take
get
it day
back to you
one?
on the plan specific. I don't know.
Okay,
if
I
they-
was just curious how that worked out. And if there's other ways to skin the cat, but.
Yeah, right now it's,
going well.
you know, that 23 or 25 years. And I think there is a specific age. I don't recall what it is off the top of my head, but again, they are able to enter the drop plan when they're coming close to retirement. A lot of them do. So it's a really good thing for them to take advantage of.
So, you mentioned that they could enter the drop within, I think you said 7 years of retirement. So is that, so does that mean that they could, if they were going to require at or they're going to retire at 23 years, they could enter the drop at like 17, 18 years?
Or 16. They could, and we stopped making contributions to the plan. It's after 23.
Okay.
So we would,
So they would have to hit their, when they're able to retire with the full retirement. And then they can say, I'm going to stay 5 more years and then enter the drop and all that.
yes.
Correct. That's what, okay.
Yeah, and they would just defer their retirement payments instead of collecting them at that point. It would go into an investment, and yeah.
And it's a good deal for the city as well.
Mhm.
I'm still gonna ask this every time, but so there's still no plan or anything for any kind of COLA for the retirees then? Whether they've been retired 10 years or 15 years. That plan, that I saw the one page said COLA, no. No, so but that's not anything that we still are not considering that, and it's not anywhere in.
So that's a commission consideration?
Yeah, Commissioner, I can take that one if you like. So it is, from my perspective, it's something that's subject to collective bargaining. It's a request that they are entitled to make. They did make that request from us again this year. And my response to the union is that we'd be happy to consider COLAs in the pension, but they have to be fully funded. And as of now, the form of the request almost always comes in a form that's not completely funded, which would then send that curve that way. So again, it's something that if the unions want to include as part of the negotiation, we're happy to include that and make it part of the package. It just obviously comes from somewhere else.
I just want to inquire about that every time, and something that I feel strongly about, so. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you for the update.
Thank you.
Next, we will be looking at the 2025-29 Consolidated CDBG plan.
Good afternoon. I'm Shira Green, the Housing Grant Specialist for the Housing Division, and I will be presenting on the proposed 2025-2029 CDBG Consolidated Plan and the 2025 to 2026 Annual Action Plan. So what is the Consolidated Plan? The Consolidated Plan is a 5-year planning document that is required by the Department of Housing and Urban Development, known as HUD, in order for the city of Largo to continue to receive its annual retirement for the Community Development Block Grant Program. The Consolidated Plan identifies goals and priorities for the next 5 years to address the housing and community development needs for Largo. Oh, did I go back one? My bad. The goals have remained consistent with the previous why does it do that? I'll use this one. The goals have remained consistent with the previous Consolidated Plan, and it relates to the city's strategic plan initiative to build a community of safe and healthy neighborhoods, and also with the Housing Division's mission to build community through housing, neighborhoods, and supportive services. The CDBG Block Grant Program is a federally funded program administered by HUD, and its aim is to assist low to moderate income communities and community development projects. So this is an overall view of the types of CDBG, what activities CDBG funds can be used for, such as public facilities, public improvements, public services, housing services, and economic development. Although there are eligible economic development activities, it comes with significant compliance requirements. So throughout the planning process, staff conducted a variety of input sessions to gain feedback on the needs of the community. So some of those input sessions included the concert series on the breezeway, the evening market, movies in the park, and we also partnered with the county on a community needs survey. And from those input sessions, we identified that these are the needs that the community is in search of. So senior housing and services, homelessness and support services, access to medical services, and affordable housing for all. So the Consolidated Plan ties back to the city's strategic plan and the Housing Division's mission. In orange are the 4 main goals, and under those goals are the initiatives that will be undertaking with all of the funding sources identified in the plan. Housing continues to be the main focus on preserving and expanding the affordable housing stock, and CDBG also allows us to invest in other goals such as neighborhoods, emergency mitigation, and supportive services. So this is our CDBG target area map. There are 3 areas identified in the comp plan. This map is the main CDBG target area, which encompasses the West Bay Drive and Clearwater Largo Road community redevelopment districts. The other 2 target areas are in the Greater Ridgecrest and High Point, which are located in our planning service and are also identified in Pinellas County Consolidated Plan. This allows us to partner with Pinellas County for improvement in these areas. Do you have any questions on the Consolidated Plan?
Is everything shaded in there? Is that all city? Is that all in the city?
Yes.
Okay, so that area is still up north. That's still unincorporated in Pinellas County. Then.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Sure. Yeah.
The annual action plan shows us the formal grant application to HUD for annual CDBG funding. The action plans outlines the annual projects and activities that will be undertaken to implement the goals and strategies of the Consolidated Plan. And so I will pause right now, and Elle will provide you with an update on our federal and state allocations.
So our federal money, which is the Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, and our Home Investment Partnership home funding, that comes from 1 year in arrears in the federal budget. So the continuing resolution is what funds us for this action plan for the 25-26 year. The budget talks at the federal level right now would affect 26, 27. So it gets a little complicated, but I want to make sure. So we have a solid understanding of what we expect our federal money to be for this action plan. Beyond that, it's a little bit uncertain. At the state level, we did get some confirmation that there is agreement among House and Senate. However, the state budget for July 1st has not been signed, which we base our estimates off for next year. However, the money on our state housing money comes from a portion of all the documentary stamps charged when there's a property sale. And so the market has slowed, and thus the funding in that trust fund for those funds have slowed as well. So we did get an update, even though it's recommended for full funding, the full funding amount is 9% less than this year, which is almost 30% less. This year is almost 30% less than last year. And that's simply with the market change a little bit. So we're fairly certain on our numbers for this coming year. We also get program income from our loan portfolio. Our loan portfolio is a little over $12 million with all of our different funds. So that comes in either in monthly payments, or if someone sells their home and they have a housing loan with us, then we get that full amount at that time. So that's a variable. Again, depends on what the interest rates are doing. People refinance or move or buy and that kind of thing as well. And there's also some rollover funds, kind of a projection of what might not be spent this year that we roll over in that balance as well. So the action plan encompasses all three of them. I'll turn it back to Sharon.
So these are annual goals that will be carried out in the action plan. The majority of the funding will be focused on housing at 74%, neighborhoods at 18%, and supportive services at 2%. And we also have program administration that accounts for 6%. So these are the housing programs that we'll be funding for fiscal year 25-26. The amounts for the housing programs encompasses funding from CDBG, the Home Investment Partnership, Home Funds, and the State Housing Initiative Partnership, SHIP Funds, and the Pinellas County Housing Trust Fund. These are the neighborhood projects that we will be carrying out for the fiscal year 25-26. This funding is used for improvements in the CDBG target area. One of the neighborhood projects that we'll be doing is the construction of the 804th Northwest Green Space improvements. This project aims to enhance community safety and create more accessible, welcoming public place. This was a collaborative effort with other departments, Largo Police Department, Engineering, Parks and Recs, and Housing Division. This project will be including widening the sidewalk for ADA accessibility, pedestrian street lighting, adding in a dog park, and exercise equipment. And these are the proposed public services that we'll be carrying out for the 25-26 fiscal year. With the exception, the Area Agency on Aging notified the city that they were unable to continue their senior services program due to the high administrative costs to operate the program effectively. We understand that the senior services was indicated as a need, and we would take that into consideration when we do our next application cycle. Gulf Coast Legal Services, we recommended not funding due to the declining number of Largo residents served over the past few years.
Probably you said the portfolio is $12 million.
Yes.
What is the return on that we're getting?
So most of our loans go to serve people that are extremely low or very low income. So most of our loans are 0%. Our home improvement loans are actually forgiven over a 15-year period. And that's simply because a lot of the things that we're repairing wear out in that 15 years, like roof, air conditioner, and so forth. So if they sell in the first 5 years, the full amount of the loan comes back to us. And then it's 10% reduction each year thereafter. Again, so if they're going to need to replace the roof in another 15 years, they've got the equity to do it. So
this is just rolled over internally then. It doesn't, if you're looking at this money here and going, well, as part of the funding, the return of investment from the $12 million portfolio, does any of that go towards these? And the answer would be no.
Oh, so yes, when that program income comes back in, we absolutely put it back out in the program.
Back out within the same portfolio.
Within the different programs, so it depends on which funding source it is too. So our SHIP money, the state money, and home investment partnership can only be used for housing. So when those loans pay off, they only go back toward housing, other housing projects, home improvement, down payment assistance, that sort of thing. CDBG can be used for other things. So we did a lot more home rehab with CDBG years back. And so we have loans out there for that. So when those pay off, it goes into the general program income fund for CDBG, in which we develop our annual action plan. We do have requirements like public services. There's a cap on how much we can use for that. So more program income doesn't necessarily mean a big windfall. We can't put it all toward public services, for example. So that's kind of, so it redistributes within what's eligible within.
So
that.
basically you just segregate it internally then. As the funds come in, you just split it up in-house per se.
Correct. So we use our budget, our annual action plan of what we're looking for to fund, kind of like the city's got revenues that come in the budget. So we look at that budget. So when we get program income, we allocate it proportionally amongst what we said we were going to fund in our action plan.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Most of the money that it's either from home, CDBG or program revenue, right?
Mhm.
And so over time that our portfolio is growing, am I right? Like $12 million now. What was it 5 years ago or 10 years ago?
I have that on a spreadsheet. I don't have it offhand. It really depends. For example, we had one that was a big affordable housing development that had $500,000 that paid off a few years ago. So yes, we got that program income that year. It's not normal for us to get $500,000 in a given year, but that also took a hit on our portfolio level. And so we also have those, it's kind of more recent and probably the last 6 or 7 years that we have that deferred forgiven aspect for our rehab program. So it takes a while to get through before people's loans start decreasing incrementally in those out years. Generally, we're putting out more new loans than we're having decreasing.
Yeah, and so like a portion of the money that comes in for CDBG or home is spent well and goes away forever, because if they stay in the house long enough, they may never have to pay that money back for a rehab or something.
That's correct.
But some of the rest of it goes and does good work, and then it comes back to the city, and we still get, hopefully still get federal government money and that money coming. So some of the money goes out and does what we want it to do and comes back to us to do it again and again and again. And some of it doesn't, right?
Right. And some of the money, that a lot of the folks that we are helping, it is helping them stay in their homes. It's helping to reduce their insurance costs and their energy costs and so forth. So it really provides that community benefit in addition to that individual household to keep them safely housed as well. So it's kind of double benefit on that.
Thank you.
Question. Maybe I missed it. Why did we zero the area agency on aging?
You want to touch back on that?
They notified us that they were unable to continue the program due to the high administrative costs for it to be effective.
Okay. I just find it interesting. We're doing more. I get what we're doing for homeless support, but with our non-homeless support, special needs, we're just basically maintaining. I just feel like a lot more seniors are starting to get to that point where they're getting close and needing the help, and we're more putting money towards someone who's already homeless or groups that are supporting that. Curiosity where that is.
Yeah, absolutely. Great point. And we heard that from our community. We heard it from our advisory board as well. This program has been amazing. It used to be run by Pinellas Opportunity Council, and the Area Agency on Aging took it over after. Pinellas Opportunity Council had the same staff doing the senior chore services for 10 or 15 years, and everyone kind of retired. And so it was really a reset, and the Area Agency on Aging knows there's a need. That's why they took it up. They're just struggling with the administrative burden to actually make it feasible on the funding that's available, both through us and other agencies and so forth. And they're also feeling the potential federal crunch on some of their funding that funds their agency as well. So definitely a need. So next fall, this coming fall, we would be opening setting up an application cycle for the following year with our goals and everything, knowing that senior services is one of those priority areas. And so when we put out that new application cycle, that would be one of the items that we can list as a priority for project submittals. Whether we get project submittals, we see what comes in for the different proposals and then we evaluate those. But the seniors and services, do you want to touch on that a little bit on what they're doing? They're new this year for us.
They're a new agency and they provide companionship activities. So they'll go into like a senior living facility and they will do activities, just to have that communication with other seniors to, bring them out of their shell. So it's the funding is for a part-time coordinator and she coordinates all the activities and then they carry them out through different facilities.
And they've been, I think, in communication with our senior services officer for areas where there might be higher rates of senior isolationism to reach out. And it's really meant for, that engaging activity, not just like play cards, but the conversations that they start during playing cards per se are really to create bonds amongst the different people and kind of create that relationship. So.
Thank you. Thank you. These projects, they're application based, correct?
That's
yes.
Correct.
So I want to talk about Feeding Tent Bay and nothing against them. They're a wonderful organization. But so part of their model is that they mostly supply distribution points throughout the Tent Bay area. They're a collection hub and they do things. So $10,000 to them is a drop in a bucket, but it's still, a decent amount of money. I would have liked to have seen a local organization be able to take this on, one of our religious institutions or somebody else within the city that can, where $10,000 would be a lot. And I don't know if there were applicants from within the city or if it's just, if we need to do more outreach or do we need to make it easier? I'd just like to know a little bit more about that.
So this, they did apply in our last application cycle and they're getting funded this year. They are in partnership at the Ridgecrest YMCA for outreach or for the service in that area. One of the difficult things with community development block grants is there's a huge learning curve and a huge administrative burden. For example, unless you're in a designated low and moderate income area, you have to get demographic information. Well, either way, you have to get demographic information, but you also have to get income self-certifications, for example. You have to have monthly or quarterly reporting. There's a bunch that goes into it with federal money that makes it difficult for the little folks sometimes to do it, unfortunately. And we do have, we provide significant technical assistance to different agencies. It is tricky though. And that's one of the things that we look at when we evaluate is if they've got the capacity really to carry out the program and all the federal regs with it. It's different from, like foundation funds where there's more flexibility, unfortunately. But it is, it's very tricky to learning curve if you're not used to doing it.
Okay. I'd like to see the outreach continue to try to find somebody locally, but so back to Feeding Tent Bay. So they are a partner, like I said, with the Y. Is the 10,000, do we put any requirements that they do something directly in the city for that $10,000?
I think the YMCA building is actually in city limits. Okay. And so they do provide, it is difficult with a food bank like that to specifically look up like every single address to see exactly who's in. So what we've done is we've given them what zip codes they need to report. Okay, you'll use these as Largo, these as non-Largo, that kind of thing to try and separate just for the volume that they're serving for that. But we do that outreach and provide that as well as people, if they're calling us looking for those services, we can let them know that resource is there.
Well, hopefully we can find somebody local that can take on the administrative burden. I understand that doing this kind of work myself, but again, nothing against them. I just try to see if we can support somebody locally who can do that directly on the ground.
Okay. Thank you for your feedback.
Other questions?
Oh, I'm almost done.
Yeah, no.
The next step. So the consolidated plan and the annual action plan was presented to the Community Development Advisory Board at their May 19th meeting, and the board approved the plans. Currently, we are in our 30-day public comment review, so that went from June 1st to June 30th. And then they're scheduled for the adoption will be for July 15th, and then the submittal to HUD after that. And now, do you have any questions?
Any other questions? Have we received any public comment since we're about a week into the
No,
public? Okay.
we have not received any public
Maybe we
comment.
will after tonight. Yeah. Well, it's online. It's online, I think. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, we look forward to July when we see the next step for us. All right, board or committee reports. Forward Pinellas.
Yeah, I got a couple things to talk about. First thing, I went to the School Transportation Safety Council meeting, and interesting, there's continued talk. The sheriff was invited to address Fort Pinellas about the bus cameras and the school zone cameras. Sheriff's not interested in managing that program for the county. There was an ask by the committee to, if any cities wanted to do like pilot programs to try it out. I said I'd bring it back to talk about. This kind of goes with our, Clearwater Largo Road issue with safety. So, that could be a place where we'd pilot, school zone cameras, because that's the only thing. We couldn't do the bus cameras because they go outside of the city limits. But if we were interested in trying something else to slow down speeds in that area, that might be a way to do that. We could put them in other places as well. Obviously, it's a somewhat of a funding source, but it's often an unpopular. I know red light cameras are very unpopular, so I don't know how popular or unpopular school zone cameras are. I feel a little better about them than I do red light cameras personally, just because they're school zones. I think there's some difficulty in getting them synced up with when school's actually out and when the school zones are active. And so there's been some errors with that, but they go through a 3-step process. So that theoretically you're not sending out violations to people who didn't really violate, but something that we could take up in a future work session if we wanted to discuss it. For Pinellas, we had a good meeting Monday. Went through the budget. Looks like they're going to cut the mills for Pinellas, or the Pinellas Planning Council, from 0.02 mils to 0.01575 mils. So they're going to tighten the budget a bit. That was we went through and approved the plans going forward. I think really Largo had recently been all the headlines with our different projects that we've gotten through. They are trying to seek out some other cities to engage. We are always well spoken of at Fort Pinellas, and how engaged our team is. Seeking out projects is something that I talk about with our team all the time. I'm very proud of the way we are perceived by Fort Pinellas. But they did we did our priorities list. I think the only thing in the city limits is they're doing something on that we don't already know about. There's Bel Air Road. They're gonna, I think, add a turn lane, or they're gonna widen it and add a bike lane on there. So that's one of the areas. And then I think we know about the other projects there. A lot of discussion of the Gateway community in the Gateway. They're trying to drive more businesses there and hold businesses there. It's basically all the high-paying jobs in Pinellas County are in that. Most of them are in that Gateway area. So they're really that's got a lot of attention. So there's a lot of efforts going into that. Obviously, Pinellas County is moving into that area as well. So there's a lot of discussion of how to hold jobs, drive higher earning jobs in that area, which it would be good for Largo as well. That's the highlights. We had there's a lot of legislative highlights. I'd be happy to talk to you about individually, but a lot going on at Tallahassee, in particularly with municipal planning organizations. But I won't bore you with that. That's all. That's my report.
Thank you. Continuum of care.
We meet every other month. Our next meeting is July 11th.
Very good. Thank you. Commissioner Smith, Suncoast League.
Suncoast League is having their meeting on June 20th in Largo at the Largo Public Library from 11:30 to 1 o'clock. I unfortunately won't be able to attend because I'll be at work and I couldn't get off. But again, it'd be nice if someone from Largo was there. But again, that is the Suncoast League is June 20th from 11:30 to 1 o'clock at the Largo Public Library. That's it.
Which is a Friday. Thank you. PSTA.
You probably saw that the PSTA has agreed to take on the grant to start the Cross Bay Ferry again, and Hillsborough has agreed to give them the grant. For me, the presentation was pretty good. I mean, it's subsidized by St. Pete and Tampa. There really is no direct Largo taxpayer money going into it. It's for the most part should be cost neutral for PSTA, and potentially could bring in additional revenue through their matching formulas for they actually get to count the people who ride the ferry. I was surprised to learn that in the limited time that it was being used, the 4 days a week in such a one boat, it had 60,000 people ride it. So they're going to try to buy 2 boats. I don't think they're going to get 2 with the $4.8 million, but they're going to see what they can do and get it restarted hopefully next fall, the 26th. So I don't know if it's necessarily a transportation option, but it's an outing and it's something that's popular, and it's I was surprised as many people use it as they do.
Bay Regional Planning Council, we had a meeting on Monday. We had a presentation about brownfields, and a lot of money is out there for folks that are in brownfields to do cleanup. And I know our staff is very well aware of that and helps folks kind of navigate that situation. But it can be a small site to a large site. If it's an old gas station, old dry cleaner, that type of stuff can take advantage of state money and federal money for that. There's a big push on brownfield to community health. So whether they're converted those to public spaces that can be used for exercise and that type of stuff, or in Clearwater in the Greenwood area, there was a big project, and now it's like a medical clinic in an area that didn't have a lot of access to primary physicians and stuff. So that was a nice presentation. We also had a presentation from the FLA meteorologist. I can't think of his name right now. But he was on Zoom at his 3-year-old daughter's swim practice. So he talked about hurricane season and kind of his projections. He said that while it's not all good news, most at this point, things are a lot different than they were last year. All of the models that he was looking at this point last year showed several tracks coming straight on this part of Florida, and the current projections show 0 tracks. So the chances of getting hit seem to be much smaller than last year. But as he pointed out, it only takes one, right? And so he mentioned that during Helene we had an 8-foot storm surge on the beaches. The very tip of Tampa Bay had about a 9-foot storm surge in some places. If a storm hit Indian Rocks Beach, he said that those numbers would be 15 feet on the beaches, and north end of Tampa Bay would see 19 to 20 feet of storm surge. So imagine the devastation that would happen with that. And so while he said it looks like it's going to be a much less active hurricane season for us, we need to prepare, because it just takes one to hit us close or come real close. And then lastly, there was a summary of our resiliency summit, which was last month. It was very well attended. It was from it's always cost the Regional Planning Council a little bit of money to put that on. This year we were in the black, so we actually made some money on this year's conference, which was great. largely because it was at a new location, at a new place down in Palmetto. It was a beautiful place. It was really well run, but it was a lot less expensive than on Clearwater Beach. So we'll be back there again next year. I encourage you, if you can attend, please do. We had a great group of our team members here from Largo that really seemed to get a lot out of it and really enjoy it. It talked a lot about hurricanes and resiliency, both before the storms and also really thinking about long term after the storms, after property is wrecked, and how you come out of that in a better place than before. So it was a good presentation. There was a lot of really good information there. And it's going to be at the same place next year. Did I say that already? I think I did. And that's all I have for Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council. Let me see. Commissioner Johnson, do you have anything else?
I could go to the Coast League of Cities meeting, so I'll do that.
Commissioner Smith.
Just Saturday, I attended the St. Pete Pride Family Day. I stopped by just to see how the turnout was. Great turnout from families, and our staff did a fantastic job running the table. It was really hot out there, and the most popular thing that they were handing out was the fans, the Largo fans that people loved. So I thank them for being out there on a hot day and showing those families love and care for our city and support. Also, this Friday? June 13th, whatever that is. June 13th from 7 to 9 at Highland Aquatic Center is the Pride Splash Party. It's $5 to get in. It's a family-friendly pool event. We last year got rained out, but the year before that, they had a lot of families come to that, and they were really appreciative of everything Largo was doing. And then last on Sunday, I attended the 30th birthday for the Central Park. Seeing the families out there on another hot day was so nice to see, and brought joy to their lives. And that park is so near and dear to all Largo's hearts. So that I wasn't actually, it was over here, but that's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. DeBreezy.
Thank you. Not to bring up a well-discussed subject, but I've gotten a lot of inquiries, and I said I'd bring it. I've gotten a lot of sandbag inquiries, and so I just wanted to bring it up really fast and ask, is it still the commission's position that the city not participate and give out sandbags? And I don't know if that's the right way to do it right now, but I just wanted to bring it up and see if it's still the desire of the commission not to do that. And I know, John, for you have a stance on it. You and I discussed it, but I continue to get, and maybe because I'm the new guy, so they're gonna, let the new guy bring it up. But I just wanted to bring it up, and you were talking about 10-foot, 18-foot storm surges, and I know there's not a sandbag in the world that's going to do anything about that. But when we experienced the 18 inches of rain last summer, and people got 1 or 2 or 3 inches of rain in a house, it potentially can be something that can help in those houses. So I did want to bring it up and see if it's something that the commission does not want to participate in or wants to change their stance on that. Yeah.
Now, I think I've asked the same question in the past years, and really, I think the challenge is that the folks that we can't put a pile of sand at the golf. Well, actually, the pile of sand at the golf course is hit anyways sometimes, but we can't put a pile of sand and just bags out, because it doesn't work. So we have to staff it, and those staff members are working hard to get everything ready for a hurricane. We don't have the depth in our team to be able to efficiently run a sandbag operation and also do what we need to do to get ready for a storm. That said, we talked to the county at least a couple years ago, because they have a sandbag center in Largo that is not for Largo residents, and I said, let's find out what it would cost the city to participate in that. And they didn't. I don't know that we even got a number, but what they said was you'd have to staff it, and that's the problem, right? Additionally, we had a meeting just recently with some of the cities nearby, some of the beach cities, and without exception, every single one of them said, that if they could get out of the sandbag business in preparation for a storm, they would. And the reasons are because it takes a lot of resources, mostly manpower resources, and the benefit is questionable at best. And so, if somebody gets 5 sandbags or 10 sandbags and puts them in front of their front door and they get 6 inches of water against their house, it's not gonna stop that from getting in the house, most likely. So, I mean, I don't know if that's kind of what.
From our point of view, I think I definitely understand that regarding the resources part of it. But what I also do see is small cities significantly smaller than us participating in it, even though they hate it. And they do put the resources.
You're right. Yeah.
And I never like seeing, like I saw it last year and the list of cities that are going out and Largo is not on the list. And I just think it's not the best look for us. And it's a service that we don't, that people do ask for. And so I wanted to bring it back up for that purpose.
Yeah, I don't disagree with all of that analysis. I agree with that. And it's certainly not up to me. I've asked why we don't. I've asked, can we partner with the county and pay them to say, okay, it's for county residents and Largo residents, and we'll pay for the sand or whatever has to be. We just don't, I don't think we have the manpower or the people power to successfully do it.
One of the things John mentioned to me is, hey, is that something, you'd want to go man? And I said, right, go do that. But I don't know how many hours it takes to do it. Like, how many hours is it open? Like, if we got volunteers from the community to help, is that even something we could do? We could say, look, we got to do a lot of stuff in the city to get ready for this thing. But, if we could find the Chamber of Commerce or the Rotary or somebody, get volunteers to go man that thing. If we can dump the sand there and have someone supervising, I don't know what it takes. What's it take for us how many man hours does it take? And
I'd just like to volunteer here that I bought and filled my own sandbags last year for Helene. I also bought 25 bags of mulch. I put a tarp in front of my door. I put the mulch bags in like a V to help take away some of the pressure of the water. But people forget that they have their front door, their garage door, which leads to another garage door inside their house, sliding glass doors in the back. And the sandbags, I will tell you, give you a totally false sense of security. They do nothing except for in your mind, you're going, oh my gosh, we're going to get floods. We need sandbags. And people panic. And the most they give you anywhere is 10. Like I said, I bought sand. I bought the bags.
I did too.
And it did cost me nothing.
No, I know. I think,
But it does give you that little false sense of security. And when I've talked with people, when they've asked me about the sandbags, now that I've totally experienced it, it's a lot easier for me to answer from an objective and honest view of what a sandbag does. And it's definitely a false sense of security.
Agree. It continues to be a request from citizens and, regardless of our own certain situations, they may handle it differently and such. And, another option, and I'll stop at that and let the comments is that you don't have to wait for a storm. If you want to do it, you can just pick a weekend or a day and just say, okay, the city, we're going to do it. And you can come out and store for the summer or whatever you want to do. So, I said I'd bring it because, I've gotten a few emails. I got a couple of things at the park on Sunday. So it comes up and I'm sure, it sounds like everyone else kind of gets those as well. So, I mean, there are options and I just wanted to, not to belabor because I know it's at the end of the meeting, but we can do it for another time, but there are other ways, there are options, a way to be able to handle it.
Might make sense to look at, what are we in June now? The beginning of June, sandbag. Hey, we're gonna have a sandbag weekend. Come get your sandbags if you want them. Keep them all summer, Obviously, if they get flooded, I don't know. Not that they're effective, and that's a challenge. I mean, we're spending money and time on stuff that is largely not effective.
I feel like I'd rather see us spend the money and the effort, time on
letting people know
cleaning out ditches.
Focus on ditches.
Yeah. The things that are.
Making sure that.
Well, I mean, if you get them for a period of time, I mean, if you do a weekend, I mean, I guess the county pays for the sand and brings all that stuff out, but we have to man it. So that's the man hour times that are going to go into it and stuff like that. And I try not to, and it's easy to educate people by just putting something on the website and saying, here's how you should do it. I mean, those kinds of things. So I wanted to bring it up and just, see where everybody stands on it. So.
So I will add that I don't think our position has changed. I think we don't think it's an effective use of people's time as storms are kind of bearing down on us. The county, we have talked with other city managers, and I think we all agree that unless they're used properly, they're ineffective. That's been recognized at the county, and we've kind of tweaked the message this year, which is encouraging residents to look at alternative means for barriers in front of garages and doors. So there are products out there that you can buy. They're actually lower cost, I think, than sandbags, that are door dams that are either air or water filled that you can use. And we encourage people to prepare for storm season to look at those lower cost alternatives. We will be connecting with the county on their promotional videos to promote hurricane safety and talk about those alternative products. So try to raise awareness for those things. I think under any circumstances, even if we did some limited form, I would feel obligated to have, for example, a police officer stationing the site to maintain things were orderly. So there's, already an officer or two that I don't have on the road, focus on evacuations and other things. The level of service we provide here, I'm not going to have one of our senior citizens in line getting sandbags without someone there from our team to help them. That's just the level we do. So can't imagine any circumstances where we would not feel obligated to use our staff and our public safety to help in that process. And again, I think our position is consistent that we think those resources are best deployed preparing for the incoming storms than helping fill sandbags.
All right, thank you. Mr. Hulk.
Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Holmes.
Well, what am I gonna do? Thanks. With all this conversation about sandbags and stuff like that, there's a common denominator here. Anytime we're getting one of these storms coming, Jim Cantori is here. What we need to do is bar Jim Cantori from coming here. That by ordinance. No, Jim Cantori's here and you're not going to have any problem with the storms. Okay. That's my first suggestion, going along with my advertising on the garbage trucks, which we'll get into it a different day. I had a conversation with the people from the Historic Society. Also on Sunday, the other person who was here, they brought up something really interesting. And I said, well, bring it up at the commission. This is the archives for the city of Largo is what we're sitting in right now. They've mentioned to me that they almost have to beg to get material for here. And I said, well, what type of material are you looking for? And that hit the wall of silence. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll bring it up to the commission that think about it. If you know something that you think should go into the archives for the city of Largo, get it to the Historic Society. But I also asked them, I said, why don't you come up with a list of the stuff you don't want? I said, otherwise, we could just bury you in paper. I don't think you want the paper. But then he pointed out all these new cabinets back here, they're looking for stuff to put in the cabinets, like the cabinets up there. Because every once in a while, I've been finding some little trinket. I mean, I found some stuff that my uncle did for the city of Largo back in 1952. He was doing the artwork for the ads. And I gave them, so we managed to find some of the brochures and I gave it to them. But you go along, most of this information here has been donated. So if you know somebody who's got some stuff, or, if we want to, tell a department, inform a department head that if they see something that looks like, maybe they want to kind of keep this in the archives for the city, it's a good thing to do. That is merely my suggestion, along with putting ads on garbage trucks. Oh, by the way, it was a really nice party here on Sunday. Music was way too loud, but that's really my opinion. Thank you.
So that's a good timing to suggest, because there's a lot of people at City Hall going through boxes that have been in City Hall for a long time. So maybe if they find some old stuff that would be interesting for the Historical Society, they could drop it off here rather than get rid of it or bring it to the new City Hall. The only thing I had was, in July, I think it's July 15th. I have a live coffee chat next Tuesday, a week from today at Acropole. In July, I won't be able to make the coffee chat. So I'm looking for somebody to fill in. If anybody, it's about an hour and 15 minutes. It starts at 8:30 on Tuesday, the 15th. If somebody wants to be. Yeah, you want to do it? All right. Are you available? All right. I won't tell everybody that you'll be the one covering. No, I'm just kidding. I'm sure. I'm sure. I appreciate it. I'll be in touch as it gets a little bit closer. Yeah. Very good. Mr. Kerp, anything? Any action items? Very good. Meeting's adjourned.